start the class. First, this is Muhammad Omar. I'm basically from Egypt. I'm a PhD student, IPS PhD student here in Tuskegee, and it was my pleasure to help with that course as a TA. So first, excuse my accent, but feel free to stop me at any point you didn't get what I'm saying, okay? Second, this should be interactive class. So please, if you can, turn on your video so that at least we can see each other. Everybody can hear me?
I'm sorry, I'm just now getting set up, but I'll be able to turn my stuff on in a second.
Okay. Thank you all who are turning on their videos. Sorry, I'm putting on my mask because I'm working in the lab with other colleagues, so this is my, if sometimes not too shocked when see me for the next time, inshallah. Share my screen. So the last class, lab class, I think you went through Mr. Lawrence through the how to write a scientific paper or a scientific report, and you all now should be know or should be aware how should a scientific paper look like, right?
Yes.
So can anyone summarize what did you get from last lab class? At least mention the main items of a research paper or a research article. Anyone?
What was your question?
I'm asking what are the major parts of the scientific research paper or research article, or how should the a research or a scientific paper look like?
You said a paper, right? So I know one part was the abstract.
Right. Because I can see most of you have submitted the research article or a research paper. So at least you should go through what have you sent. But okay, yeah. Abstract is the first part of the any research article or research paper. What else? Or what's next?
Introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Methods, experimentation.
What?
Your methods in experimentation.
Yeah. And results. then the interpretation. Okay, so when you come up with whatever research article or the research paper you submitted, so first thing come to your mind, how to evaluate. For example, if I'm looking up for a topic about some marine creatures, some interesting topic. So I can find many sources for this topic, but how can I evaluate this information or this source of information? Anyone have insight about this? Okay, so because as I mentioned, you will find many different sources through internet, even in your library. So when you find or when you get a source of information, whatever it is, article or research paper or diaries or a book, whatever. So you have to evaluate this source of information. So the first thing we evaluate through it is the currency. Currency mean what is the date of this publication, because if you are you know there is update every day, there are many updates on the same topic. So when you are looking for a new updates, you can't go and get a publication that has been published maybe 20 or 30 years ago and take information from that publication. Yes, it may this information are right and are correct, still correct, but there are many updates, right? So first thing you have to look up or look at the date of that publication. Mostly when you write a new article or new publication, you get sources or references mostly maximum 5 years ago, not more than that, maybe 7 years, 8 years, but the best thing is to choose recent publications about this point. The second evaluation parameters here is the authority and the credentials, which means who is the author of that publication and who is the publisher. So for example, if I'm looking for an information about something in biology, and I found the author of that paper or that article, his major is economy, for example. So how can I take this information for guarantee or for trust? How can I trust him? So the author matters. So you have to look at this author if he has a previous work, previous background, if he maybe this is the first time to write in this topic, so you may need some time or look at another sources of this information about this information. So the author matters, also the publisher matters, because can anyone of you tell me one name of the most common or prestigious journals?
Is it the Harvard one?
Harvard is a university, but I mean the publisher.
They have like a
Yeah.
They have like a little website thing where they be posting articles on, and that's what it's called, at least. I don't know if it's from the university or not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Harvard, the publishing agency, as one of them. Yes, Nature. Most of you maybe heard about Nature, Science. Cell magazine, all of these, it depends according to your measure and your specialty. So you will find different prestigious or at least outstanding publishers. But you know, sometimes like scammers, there are some agencies that say, okay, you have to pay some money and we can publish your work without reviewing your work. So it matters. It matters. You have to check when you get a paper, and you will build up on this or build on this information. You have to check the author and the publisher itself. The third point is, where does this information come from? Was it experimental based or based on an experiment, or it just someone hypothesized this idea, or it is a report written by a group of people, or it just I saw this result in one of the neighboring labs, or one of the colleagues did this work. So you have to check out these three items in any source of information you get or you are getting. So again, we have different sources of information, but most of this or all sources of information can be classified under two major branches: primary sources and secondary sources. So primary sources, from its name, actually this is a first-hand information. So it comes from the author to you or to the reader. So it, you know, when someone did the experiment and gets the result, and he directly tells this result to you. So this kind of primary source information. Usually, primary source information doesn't or don't explain in details, because it's supposed that you have a basic background about that topic, at least the minimum knowledge that you make you able to go through this article or this paper. For example, if I'm working in cancer biology and I am looking for a paper who is hear me?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now we can.
So, okay, so I was telling, if for an example, for a primary source, it doesn't explain in details and doesn't define some terms, because they assume that the reader should have a basic knowledge or background about that topic. So if I'm doing some research or I'm doing research on cancer biology, and I'm looking for a paper who's, you know, who did a work or some experiment on breast cancer, for example. So they will not explain what is cancer in that paper. They will not explain what is cancer, how is cancer can come up, and so on. So they consider these basics. The reader should have it. Okay. So this is a primary source of information. Directly, as I mentioned, first-hand information directly from the author, and to go through this primary source of information, you have to have a background or the basic knowledge to go through that area. So why can I use this kind of source of information? So usually we use it to identify original research that has been done in a field. So I have a background and I'm looking for the updates. So I go directly to the primary source or primary source of information and get the information or get the data, get the hypothesis, whatever I need to get from that source, and you know, because if some data moved from one to one, there will be some change. Okay, darling, I can see you raising your hand.
Yes, I was just gonna ask you, can you go to the last slide just for a sec, just to make sure I got everything? Okay, yeah, I'm good. Oh, you can go down now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who else? I can see Judith. Sorry if I mispronounce your names, but
It's okay. I just wanted to ask, what does it mean by do not explain in detail?
okay. So as I mentioned, for example, if I'm working or I'm PhD student, I'm working on cancer biology, okay, and I'm looking for a paper who has carried out some work in breast cancer. So when I found a basic or a primary source, so they will not assume that I don't have the background or the basic knowledge to understand this paper. So they will not mention anything about what's cancer, for example. So because they assume that I have the knowledge to go through this paper. You got it?
Okay, thank you.
Good. Some definitions you will not find it. You will, most primary sources, they are speaking to specialized people. It's not as you give a speech to public people, to publics or something like this. No, this is kind of specialization. So they will not define what's cancer, for example, what is the possibilities of cancer. So no, they will not go in details. So examples of primary source information. As I mentioned, this is direct handout of information. So any original documents like research articles could be a primary source of information. Books. So the author wrote this book and just release it to the audience. So it is original work by this author. Diaries, speeches, manuscripts, letters, interviews, records, any kind of originality, it can be considered a primary source of information. Even any creative work like poetry, music, or video makers, you can see anyone right now are making videos or creating videos. So any kind of novelty could be considered as original source of information. So it will be clear when come to the next source or next type of source of information, which is secondary source of information. Here, the secondary source of information describe most of definitions, can go in details, can summarize, can talk about the history. It's like overview or give you an overview about that topic. So any public reader or any not specialized person can go through this paper and can get some information from secondary source of information. Have you heard about what's called review article? Anyone?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm asking if anyone have heard about what's called review article.
Is it like a review on like a restaurant or something? You know how like when they like try out your restaurant and then they write a review on it?
Yeah, some kind of, but okay, so review article when you need to know about cancer, for example, or breast cancer. Let me say the same example. So you will find several review articles that can define what is cancer, What is the possibilities of, or what is causes of cancer? What are the experiments currently are currently done on cancer? What is the history of cancer? So when you read this review article, you will get a whole idea about the topic. But mostly the author of that kind of article didn't participate in any experiments done or mentioned in that work. So he just collect, like making a review about a certain topic. So it describe or can describe certain definitions. You can see it go in details, and you know, as I mentioned, it is written for a broad audience. So you can use this kind of secondary source of information to obtain an overview on a topic, or sometimes, okay, I need to know who are the you know, pioneers in the field of breast cancer biology, for example, on the field of breast cancer research. So I can't get it until what I can do is to bring or to look at a review article that describe all the current experiments are being done right now, so I can go and search in details. Okay, I'm interested in that point. Who is the author of that one? So I can go so. So the secondary source, as it is like a source or a database that you can go through it to get a broad idea about a certain point, then you can go specifically to what you need to do. So some examples of a secondary source of information, like electronic database, like PubMed. Have anyone heard about this site before?
I've heard of Google Scholar, but I've never heard of PubMed.
Okay, but I saw many of you sent or have submitted some papers from PubMed. Okay. Anyway, this is a database source. Let me open it and go through it. Can you see my screen? Or is
It's still on the slide.
okay? Can you see it right now?
Yes.
We can see it.
Okay, here is the PubMed. This is a database, a huge database. It's related to NIH, National Institute of Health. So you can search or look up at anything you will need. So for anyone can suggest something?
Anemia.
Any topic. Say?
Anemia.
Anemia, okay. So here we go. So you can see a lot of papers that came up. Here, anemia epidemiology, anemia in pregnancy. The more you go specific, the more you go, the more details or the more specific papers you get or articles you get. So anemia in pregnant women, for example. Here it narrows the search. So global situation of anemia in pregnant women, prevalence. So let's open this one. Here you go. So this site and other sites can be considered as secondary source of information. So it is a database that collects or this is like a hub for information or for primary sources of information. So here you will get the article, and here you can see similar articles, and you can go through whatever you need. Okay. You have the link in the file you have on the Blackboard, so you can use it to search whatever you need to search for. The next source is Google Scholar. Have you heard about it?
Yes,
Anyone?
sir.
Okay, here is also a Google Scholar. So you can look at, type anything like my last sentence again. So anemia in pregnant women. Can you see here how many articles you will get? 3,000. Yeah, 336,000 results only on one topic. So this is another source or another kind of or another example on secondary source of information. Also, you can get like another additional electronic database resources. For example, that one available through Tuskegee University library database. You can use just your ID as you can use as you are using it to log in to any of the device. If you don't have ID or you have any problem, you can call the Campus Technology help desk. And I'm sharing the number, telephone number, phone number, and the email of the help desk in the file you have on the Blackboard, so that you can call them if you have any problem with that. So let me stop sharing and so how to start a journal article search. So if you need to look at a certain point, or you need to get a review article, how can you start? Anyone can share his insight or her insights?
I guess you would find out what exactly are you looking for, like your subject.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So there are many ways. Actually, they may looking simple, but you know, let's collect them in one article here. Let me open the article. So first, you can go to the library and search, or you can use search engine on any library like Tuskegee library. You can also Google. You can Google it, as we say. You can use Google Scholar. You can use any source, any other database as NCBI or NIH database. Or if you have like a handout or a written paper, a handout of a paper, you can using the bibliography. The bibliography is the last part of any paper. You will find all references that the authors used in writing this paper. So you can go through this bibliography and get an title with your interest and start looking at looking up at it. Okay. Also, I left this link to you so you can go through it.
Where is it at? On Blackboard?
Yes.
Is it under content?
Yes. You will find it as a
Can
file
you repeat what we're
called,
supposed to pull up, please?
say, the file is named like Lab 3 background information, investigating natural products as antimicrobials. It was just posted this morning, today morning.
Are you sure?
You can't find it?
No,
Okay,
sir.
after the class, I'll make sure that is available to all of you.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if in last classes, have you been introduced to the citation style or referencing style?
I did in high school, but not currently.
Okay, so here is how is any source or any reference should looks like. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so citation style, actually this is a style, it varies from one journal to other journal. Some journals start with the first name of author, then the last name. Some other journals, they start with last name, then first name. But the most common style is the ABA citation style or ABA style. So here you can start with the author, first name, then abbreviation of last name or middle and last name, author 1, author 2, author 3. Then you here in between brackets, you put the year of the work or the publication actually. Then the title of the article. Then the title of periodical or the journal, and volume number and issue number and page number here. So don't worry about this kind of stuff, because now there are some softwares or programs that can help you getting the appropriate citation style according to which journal or which journal are you going to publish in. So I'll show you one thing. Let me stop share. Where is Google? So when you need to get any reference for any paper you have, just write the title of the paper. You have to open Google Scholar you have the link, or you can just Google it, Google Scholar, but Google Scholar, not Google. Okay, so just type like let's check the macrophage and triple negative breast cancer. Okay, for example, I need this paper. So here, down there, you can use these two arrows. Can you see it?
Yes.
So this window will come up, and here is different citation style. Just you can take this as copy and paste in your file. You got it?
Yes.
Again, just type, you can type here the author name, the title of your paper, whatever you need. So once the paper came up with here, you don't have to, before we had to write it manually actually, and was taking a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and now you can do it by any software. Many programs are available, like EndNote, Mendeley, so there are many softwares. But the best way or the easiest way actually is to get it from Google Scholar here. So just what you need to do, go to the Google Scholar. Once you get the title, the correct title, so you have to open this one, and here is the ABA style, Chicago style, Harvard style, Vancouver style. So many styles. You can import them. If you are using any one of these reference or citation programs, you can just download it and import it to this kind of program you use. But for now, all what you need to do to just get it from Google Scholar as it is. Copy it and put it in your paper. So the station time. So I should show you some handouts or some printed journal articles, but because of virtual, I can't do this right now. So let's get some example of electronic journal article. Here is the author's name and date of publication, the name of the title of the work, and every article that is published online or electronically has what is called DOI. DOI is a characteristic number or link specific to this kind of article. So once you get this DOI, you can get it. For example, here, once I get the DOI, it takes me directly to the article. So this another way to identify any research article by its DOI. Okay. So I put some additional resources also. You can use it in the file. I'll make sure that it will be available just right after the class. You can use this to introduce or to familiarize yourself about the stylish ABA style or how to create a reference list. But don't worry about this stuff right now. I'll show you it later, maybe when we come in person or in the lab. So let me stop share this one. Okay, so let's practice what we have learned today in a topic. It's called investigating natural products as food preservative. So this is an introduction to upcoming classes about antimicrobial agents or natural antimicrobial agents. So let's start with an introduction about this topic. Let me share my screen again. So okay, you may heard about what's called foodborne illness, right?
Correct.
Hopefully no one has experienced it before, but it happens all the time. This is all the records. So now it's more than 50 million people in US itself being sickened or got sick by a foodborne illness every day, every year. Sorry. So it doesn't. It is not only about the health, but also it is about the economics. You can see this is the most common foodborne causing agents. That how you can see how much does it cost for each microbial or for each microorganism because of this kind of sickness they cause. Norovirus, Campylobacter, Listeria, Toxoplasma gondii, and E. coli, Salmonella. These are the most common food-borne causing disease or causing agents. So anyone can define what's called outbreak?
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
I'm asking if anyone know about what's called outbreak. Outbreak.
It's the spreading of a disease, a contagious disease, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, the outbreak we called any events that resulted from taking a common or having a common food or drink, and more than 2 cases were affected by that food or kind of drinks. We called it outbreak. So an outbreak of foodborne disease defined as the occurrence of 2 or more cases or of a similar illness resulting from ingesting of a common food. So in 2015, about 1,000 foodborne disease outbreaks were reported in 1 year. And that was resulting in over 15,000 illnesses and 20 product for food recalls. Maybe I remember last 2 weeks, there was a recall on Cobb shrimp, if anyone heard about this. Because they've discovered that it's included in a foodborne or it's associated with foodborne illness or disease. So these outbreaks usually are associated with fish, chicken, pork, and vegetables. So the food poisoning symptoms can range from mild to severe symptoms. For example, some people can experience just diarrhea, vomition, fever, nausea, stomach cramps, or upset stomach, and they can reach to, because you are losing many or huge amount of your body fluid, so you may get dehydrated because of maybe because of the microorganism itself or because of its toxins inside your body. So this illness or this sickness can be can last for a few hours, and you get well or totally recover, and it can you can extend to several days, and some cases you will need to be hospitalized. As most of disease, there are some categories of people who are vulnerable to that kind of illness, which include young children, or old people, or pregnant women, or anyone with immune system deficiencies. Those kind of people have a high risk of to getting sick by that kind of food poisoning microorganism. So how can we combat this microorganism? We are using antibiotic, right? But you know, you may hear also about antibiotic resistance. Anyone heard about this?
Yes, sir.
What's it? Can you tell me?
When some different viruses, I believe, get exposed to large amounts of biotics or different range of antibiotics, it builds up a resistance to it, making it harder to get rid of.
Yeah, that's true. That was true. So antibiotic resistance, when we keep using a certain or a definite antibiotic against a kind of microorganism, like let's say E. coli bacteria, for longer time. So there are some surviving microorganisms or some surviving bacteria who can resist this kind of antibiotic. And this surviving microorganism can overcome by time, they can multiplicate and produce a new generation of the E. coli bacteria that are not or can't be affected with that antibiotic. So it's like we are running behind them. So we are using antibiotic for E. coli, and this antibiotic became ineffective. So we are looking for a new antibiotic and so on. And now there are a broad range of antibiotics that the bacteria can acquire resistance against this kind of antibiotics. So antibiotics resistant in bacteria also, when it comes to the mechanism, it can happen with different ways, such as bacteria can alter or change its cell culture structure and reduce the permeability of the cell, and also it can modify or change the metabolic pathways inside the bacterial cells or the microbial cells itself. So by overuse of various classes of antibiotics, as I mentioned, it can result in selection of resistant mutants that inhibit their action. So can you hear me?
We can now.
Okay. So as I mentioned, antibiotic resistance or antibiotic resistance in combating microorganisms is a big issue right now. So one cause of this antibiotic resistance is overuse of antibiotic in improper way. Like sometimes you just have some common cold, you don't need to take antibiotics, but you say, okay, it will not harm me, so I'll take it. That's totally wrong, because you already have some bacteria growing in your body. So these bacteria take this antibiotic, it familiarize itself to this antibiotic and generate new mutants that can overcome this antibiotic when you get a real disease. So another thing, we use antibiotic, or they were used in preserving some foods, what's called food preservatives. So what are the food preservatives? Food preservatives is some materials or substances. Either it could be naturally or it could be chemical synthetic agents or substances that added to the food, especially the processed food. So it can prevent food spoilage and extend its shelf life. but you know, it is not about the food spoilage. It's all about what make this food spoil. So the food got spoiled through microorganisms, through bacteria, through fungi, through viruses, whatever, you know, we have through parasites. We have a broad range of microorganisms that can lead to or cause food spoilage. So one of the common or some common chemicals that are used to control microbial growth in the food, including salt, sugar, nitrates, butylide, hydroxyzanol, and other two substances, which is can be abbreviated into BHA and BHT. These two substances used to be used for longer time, but recently they discovered these two substances are included in some kind of cancer, especially colon cancer or cancer through the digestive system. So it's banned to use this kind of food preservative right now. And when it comes to sugar and salt, you can imagine we are using salt and sugar to preserve food. But the salt and sugar can lead to another or other dangerous cases from, you know, range from diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, or cardiovascular disease. So these chemical substances, you know, shouldn't be used, but we have to find an, you know, alternative for these chemical substances. So people started to look at naturally, what's called naturally or plant-based food or antimicrobial agents, to use them as food preservatives. So here we have some natural product antimicrobials that derived directly from plants. The most common types, including polyphenolic compounds, or they called plant-derived compounds or polyphenolic compounds, such as cinnamaldehyde and curcumin. So this kind it resembles the chemical synthetic, the synthetic antimicrobial or antimicrobial preservatives, but it's naturally produced through plants. So this you can here see. I'm not going to the chemical structure right now, but you can see it has different shapes, it has different structures, so it represents a variety of sources to be used as naturally antimicrobial agents or antimicrobial substance. So what you are required to, this was just an introduction in this topic. So you are required to use what you have learned today about the primary source and secondary source of information and apply to this topic. There are some questions you will find in the file. I'll share this file as Word file, and you have to fill in that file, but later you can save it as PDF and upload it into Blackboard. So here is the part one, or some questions. Choose a journal article. Identify if the article you have selected belongs to a primary, secondary, or tertiary source of literature, and why. Okay. So here, please include in-text citation. In-text citation means, yes, Nadir.
So for this assignment that's right here, if one is supposed to choose a journal article, are we choosing an article that's coming from the reading that's before it? So all of it's in reference to this part, or do we have to find an outside source?
Either for the first question, either of them is okay. But you know, you will find another questions that you have to apply to today's topic.
So as long as it applies to what we're learning right now and what we're talking about, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So here in text citation, for example, when so when you get when you get a journal article and it posted it here, and you get the citation, as I showed you here, for example, if you get the citation, the reference from Google Scholar, like it should be like in this form, for example, like this one. Okay, the author name, the year, the title of the article, the title of the journal, and so on. As I mentioned, you can get it directly from Google Scholar and print it here. Okay. But in text citation, because at the end of this paper, you are required to put all the reference lists you have used to answer the coming questions. So in text citations, mean, for example, if I write like something biology lab class, and I want to put the reference. I'm not putting the whole reference right here. I put the reference, this one, for example, this one. I need to put, this is, for example, my answer, and I want to put a reference here. So what I'm doing is just open a bracket and say 1. Then at the end of this question here, reference list. So you can see number 1. You can add like this 1. Then paste or put your citation here. So when I came to the answer, and while I'm reading your answer, I say, for example, this is your answer and this is the reference you use. Okay, so you don't have to put all the reference here inside. That's what's meant by in-text citation. You got it? For example, I write another Muhammad, breast cancer treatment has become a challenge. So, for example, this is an information I came up with, and but I didn't invent this actually. I'm not the author for this information. So I have the reference that says this information. So I'll open another bracket here and put number 2 and complete writing, and then so you go to the reference list here and say reference number 2, for example, is that one, and so on. So you put your reference number, your reference here in your answers, and at the end you will put the reference, all the reference list you used to answer this question. Let's go through the question, and I think you will get it later. So part 1, choose a journal article. Identify if the article you have selected belongs to primary, secondary, or tertiary source literature, and why. Please include in text citation. Next question. Utilizing your knowledge of primary and secondary literature searches to complete the following questions. Please include references, citations for the answer provided. please include in text citation. For example, here, first question, identify 3 foodborne pathogens. So you have to go to whatever database you are using and look at this kind of information just to get 3 name. You have to name 3 foodborne pathogens, but you know, because you didn't, you aren't the author of that paper or of that information, so you have to put the reference you are using, where you get this information from. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, next question. Identify one major outbreak due to one of these pathogens. Also, you will look at it at, you know, internet and whatever. You can use it, the library. If you are in campus, you can search through Google. You can use Google Scholar. You can go whatever you are using. I left many links in the file, and it will help you. Identify key preservatives in a food product. How are these preservatives effective at controlling foodborne pathogen growth? So also you will come up with an answer here and put the citation as I showed you between brackets. This is my answer here. I got it from reference number 5, and at the end you will add reference in the reference list. You will add here number 5 and put your reference in that form. Identify antimicrobial agents from plant origins that are used to prevent the growth of foodborne pathogens. So put here your answers and put your insight in text citations as I showed you, and by the end here in the reference list, put your all your reference bibliography or reference lists that you used to answer this question. Is it okay for you? Any questions?
No, sir.
So we would have to, I'm sorry, I think you already said I can use outside sources as long as we sort them and they pertain to the lesson. And then when is this due?
So you are asking if you can use the one report that you used for in the last lab, or
I was just saying if we, what information we use to, for the questions. You said we're using any sources as long as we cite them in there about this, about antimicrobial agents and stuff that we're learning about. Okay, and then I was asking when this was due.
yeah. Okay, so they're due next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I've sent an email with my contact, was my email, even my phone number. If you need any help, let me know anytime. Feel free to reach me out, and I'll be here anytime for help, inshallah. Okay, guys, nice to meet you, and be safe, and see you later, inshallah.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm trying to locate it now in the Blackboard. Was it?
Okay, I think I need to make it available to you. I posted it, but I need to make it available for you. I'm doing it right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Have
If you
a good
didn't
one.
find within 30 minutes, just let me know by email or phone number or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good one.